E360 TV proudly presents messages of inspirational stories. Live streaming now to millions of devices, including Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, Android TV, YouTube Live, Facebook Live, with your host, Donna and Jim, producer and host, Jim Grant, producer and host, along with Michaela Vidal, administrator and host, and Gaia Ginwa Balconi Wada, editor-in-chief.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Messages of Inspirational Stories. Jim, it is Wednesday and you are silly, but we are talking about famous people that inspire us and our kids. What an unbelievable, an unending well to choose from.
Oh, goodness gracious, yes. And just think about how hungry the kids are in this country to have a good, positive image to look up to and say, hey, I can do that too. And Absolutely. They would be correct in that because they got to be inspired by the right people and not these yo-yos they see running around that are just only, looking for their own fame and, whatever they're looking for. But I tell you right now, today is we got some good things here on the menu today for the National Day. And we're going to tell you right from the top, today is National Prune Day. And prunes are good for you. They really are.
Jim, but don't do it.
No, I'm not. No, but my wife, she loves prunes, and we have prunes in the house from time to time. But today is a National Prune Day, and every day should be a national day when you focus on treating your body with some good nourishment.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And one of those great and nourishing things you can do for your body, this is also the National Smile Power Day. Oh, when you smile, my goodness gracious, Oof. That lights you up from the inside out, doesn't it?
It does. It does. And it lights up everybody around you.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody around you.
Yeah, because how many times have you given someone a smile and they'll give it right back to you?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And this one, Jim, this is something that, we hear about it, but probably not as much as we should. This is World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. Right?
You better believe it. I mean, that is something that really rubs my fur the wrong way because elderly people sometimes, especially in some of these places, they can be abused especially when family members don't go around there often or they don't have anybody come and see them. And unfortunately, elder abuse is a widespread problem. It really is. In some instances of elder abuse, they're intended to exploit the person financially. And, you hear of these scams targeting seniors, in other cases, just simple neglect, negligence. Caregivers don't give the basic necessities they're supposed to, like nutritious food, appropriate medication, safety or assistance with hygiene.
Right.
And the list just goes on and on and on. And these poor folks, I mean, if you live long enough, you're going to be elderly too.
Right.
And just imagine how they feel sitting in there with someone half or a third of their age, acting like they know the way the world turns when they have never done what this person has done. They've never walked down the pathway of life. They've never overcome the trials, tribulations, and tragedies that they've overcome in their life. And yet they make them, they just, they don't treat them right.
Right.
And that's wrong on all fronts.
It is. And, unfortunately, there's a lot of instances too, and this really frosts my fritters, where you hear where people who are in a home of some kind, an assisted living home or what have you, and they get hurt. And then the person, and this has happened in my with my folks, my mother,
Mhm.
And the person said, "Oh, I didn't do anything." Well, if you don't if you don't know me, there's don't mess with my family.
Mhm.
Let's just put it that way. And that person did not stay in that position very long.
Mhm. Yeah.
Do not hurt my mother. You don't hurt them. Nope.
Oh, yeah. I don't blame you a bit there,
And
Donna. I don't blame you a bit.
and the saddest part was my mother had dementia, so she didn't really know
Mhm.
cognitively what was going on.
Yeah.
And so the pistons weren't firing, right?
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
went in to see her, and she had this huge laid open gash on her arm.
Mm.
Ooh, yeah.
Mm. There's no excuse for that.
Nope. Nope.
Mm.
So
Mm.
anyway, so it is national, awareness of our elders, because they
Yeah.
are a treasure.
Mhm.
They are a treasure, and they should always be honored.
Yeah. And you may have the calling in life or may have the gift of in your heart that you may want to just go into a elderly home there and just befriend people in general and go once a week and just ask them, which people, who are the folks here that don't ever have any visitors, and make it a point
Right.
to, see that person once a week and let them know you'll be back next week. Whether they got dementia or not is irrelevant. I mean,
Right.
regardless of what they've got. I mean, man, that's where, that's why we encouraged last week with National Dog Week. I mean, oh my goodness gracious, if you've got a puppy and you could take it in there, and that that dog can sense that this person's love sponge is empty, and they can
Hmm.
read that person just like a book. And just think about the love and just the moment of joy, the few minutes of joy that that dog could bring to them. Might be the only happiness, might be the only time they smile.
Right.
And that would be a worthy cause, wouldn't it, Donna?
Really would be. It really
Mhm.
would be. Animals do wonderful things for elder folks in a type of home where they don't have a lot of life going on around them anymore.
Mhm. It's also the National Day of Sneak a Kiss.
Okay.
I tried to steal one or two when I was younger, but it didn't work out too well for me. But I don't know about sneaking one, but I didn't even know you could do that.
I didn't either. I didn't know
Yeah,
how to sneak a kiss. Huh.
I know.
Okay.
Boy, should I be mad?
Maybe you got cheated, Jim, and you didn't even know it.
I know it. I know it. I'm telling you, if I live to be 300, I don't think I'll get the respect I think I deserve.
Oh my goodness.
But
Well,
today we're going to be talking about some very important ladies who really made a difference in this nation.
absolutely. One of the ones I want to talk about is
Hmm.
Eleanor Roosevelt.
Mm.
Excuse me. So she was born October 11th, 1884, and died November 7th, 1962. She
Mm.
was, of course, was an American political figure, a diplomat, and she was an activist. She served, of course, as the First Lady of the United States from 1933 to 1945 during her husband Franklin D. Roosevelt's 4 terms in office, making her the longest serving First Lady of the United States. So, she didn't always have an easy life. She had a very, very unhappy childhood, having
Mm.
suffered the deaths of both of her parents and one of her brothers at a young age. And
Mm.
at 15, she attended Allenswood Boarding Academy in London and was deeply influenced by its headmistress, Marie Savastri. So, returning to the U.S., she married her fifth cousin once removed, which is Franklin Roosevelt, in 1905. And their marriage was complicated from the beginning by Franklin's controlling mother, Sarah. And after she discovered her husband's affair with a woman in 1918, she resolved to seek fulfillment in leading a public life of her own.
Mm.
So she stayed in politics, even um, she persuaded Franklin to stay in politics after he was stricken with an illness that left him paralyzed in 1921,
Hmm.
which cost him the use of his legs.
Hmm.
But began giving speeches and appearing at campaign events in his place.
Hmm.
So she was just widely respected in her later years, and she was very, very controversial
Hmm.
for her time and her
Hmm.
outspokenness, particularly on civil rights for African Americans.
Hmm.
And uh, I don't I don't quite remember her. I was a little too young, but of course I've read about her.
Hmm.
And boy, did she just put her heart and soul in everything she did.
Hmm.
So she launched an experimental community in Arthurdale, West Virginia, for the families of unemployed miners, later widely regarded as a failure. She advocated for expanded roles for women in the workplace, civil rights for African Americans and Asian Americans, and the rights of World War II refugees.
Hmm.
Following her husband's death, Jim, in 1945, she remained active in politics for the remaining 17 years of her life.
Hmm.
She pressed the United States to join and support the United Nations
Hmm.
and became its first delegate.
Hmm.
So that's pretty impressive. She
Hmm.
served as the first chair in the UN on humane rights, oversaw the drafting of the Universal Declaration of the Human Rights, later chaired John F. Kennedy's administration's
Hmm.
Presidential Commission on the Statutes of Women.
Hmm.
By the time of her death, she was regarded as one of the most esteemed women in the world.
Hmm.
And the New York Times call her the objective of almost universal respect in her obituary.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. She was one of the most highly profile women of the world during that time, during her life. And she was also she commanded respect.
Oh, absolutely.
She just wasn't respected to what she did and the way she carried herself. I think the real secret to that was she respected herself first and she loved herself first. And, that just flowed out of her. And when you respect yourself, you have a certain air about you, and it's
Mm,
not a cockiness. It's an air of I'm going to respect myself, and I'm going to respect others, and that commands respect. And that's exactly what she did.
right.
Mm.
And she gave as much respect as she was given.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, definitely, definitely. Yeah, like I say, she was very well respected, and history books are very kind to her, but she also earned every kind word. And there's another lady I like to mention, Susan B. Anthony. Now, when people, my age group think about Susan B. Anthony, they normally think about, well, she was instrumental in getting the ball rolling for, women to get the 19th Amendment passed of the Constitution, the right to vote and all that. And
Right.
she also had her own $1 coin, which is a little bit bigger than a quarter. And it was not well received because of the fact that it was too close to the quarter and it was confusing. But that's just a tip of the iceberg. She was born in 1820, March the 15th, 1820. She died March the 13th, 1906. But she was a social reformer from the word go. She was a strong women's rights activist, and she played a very pivotal role in the suffrage movement. And she originally was born into a Quaker family, which is a very conservative type family, religious family. And she was, by the age of 17, she knew what was right, what was wrong, and she was against slavery. And she collected anti slavery petitions at the age of 17. And in 1856, she became the New York state agent for America Anti Slavery Society.
Wow.
Now that's really impressive right there because that she was about 35, 36 years of age when she did that. But she is the one that really started getting. She also created the American Equal Rights.
Hmm.
Association. And that was formed in 1866. And the purpose was, according to its constitution, its purpose was to secure equal rights to all American citizens, regardless of their race, color, sex, whatever. Equal rights to all American citizens. And that's what the Constitution is about.
Exactly.
We are all created equal. And she was just a powerhouse and a consistent person that was committed to empowering the women and with the right to vote. And she is still inspiring people today. So if you got a young girl there, that a young daughter, and she's looking for a good role model, I mean, Eleanor Roosevelt is one, Susan B. Anthony's another. I mean, yesterday, Emerson and I, we covered about Clara Barton. She founded the American Red Cross. Um, Florence Nightingale, she was very instrumental in creating the nursing staff that we have today. I mean, my goodness gracious. So you got some very strong women there with very strong, they're excellent role models for your
Right.
kids to be taught and not be taught about all the other stuff that we see being forced on kids to learn that's not really beneficial to society.
Right.
And you know, Donna, there's another lady in our lifetime, and she was the president, first lady. She was the wife of the president, John Fitzgerald Kennedy.
Hmm.
She was a beautiful woman, inside and out. She carried herself. The thing that I remember about her when President Kennedy got assassinated in Dallas in 1963, she was just, she carried herself extremely well. Sure, she was in shock. Sure,
Right.
she was, you know, she lost her husband, but she didn't fall apart.
Right.
And she was just, you know, just one of the women that, my goodness, she's known as Jackie O. And,
Hmm.
but, you know, Mrs. Kennedy, good gracious. I mean, when you think about her, what comes to your mind, you know, off the top of your mind? Just, I'm just asking in general here.
She had, to me, she was the epitome of grace and elegance,
Mhm.
but she had such a strength about her, but it was a quiet strength.
Mhm.
It was not a, here I am, here's all my speeches. She was a very shy, soft spoken woman, but her strength was immense. And she did a lot of things behind the scenes in giving.
She is also listed, ladies and gentlemen, on the Gallup's most admired men and women of the 20th century. And she passed away in 1994 at the age of 64. But she was, after her husband was assassinated, her and her children, they largely withdrew from the public eye. And later on in 1968, she married a Greek shipping magnate, Aristotle Onassis. But all through her life, I've had women that I've served with in the military talk about what a role model she was to them
Right.
because of the energy, the positive energy.
Right.
I never heard one negative thing about Mrs. Kennedy or Mrs. Onassis. I'll just call her Jackie O for short because that's what she went by. But, you know, she was just, you know, she was just off the chart when it came to morals, values, ethics. She demonstrated that. And she did not appear to let the being the first lady or the White House or any of that stuff go to her head.
No.
She was just who she was.
Right. Right.
And, you know, her career and everything and the things that she did during her life, she was very, she didn't do, how can I say this? The things that she did, it was very quiet, but it was very positive. She wasn't
Right.
looking for recognition.
No, that's why I say she had a very quiet, reserved strength.
She sure did.
Mhm.
And her being first lady, I mean, uh, she was by far, if you looked in that day and time, if you looked in the dictionary for a description of first lady, her picture would probably be there.
Probably.
Yeah. And, you know, when you talk about how she carried herself and how she was able to maintain her dignity through everything. My goodness gracious.
Yeah.
Uh, Even after the death of her second husband, um, she just continued to march. She
Hmm.
was very strong, and bless her heart, her legacy she left behind. It's caused her popularity, to really grow with some of the American women, the American public, and she just really, she never grew old in our eyes. She
No.
had that unique ability. She never grew old, and I admire that about her.
Right. She one of the things I loved about Jackie O was that her grace was timeless,
Hmm.
right? So when she was young, she had grace and poise. And
Hmm.
as she got older, she had just as much or more grace and poise.
Hmm.
And she didn't let that number of age, right, get in her way.
Not at all. And I remember too, Donna, that just by the she dressed very modestly, but very tastefully.
Oh, yeah.
And she was a fashion icon without even trying to be.
Right.
She could
Right.
put some of the real models who were wanting to be fashion icons to shame on the tarmac.
As my mother used to say, well, she could just put a burlap sack on and make it look good.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And Donna, when it comes to people like that, there's another lady here, you know, Amelia Earhart. Oh goodness gracious! I mean, you talk about someone that really broke down the barriers. You
She
know,
broke down barriers for women, but she even broke some of those barriers for men.
yes,
So yeah, it was huge.
yes, it was. Um, she wasn't afraid to take a risk. Let's say that. And she was an aviation pioneer. My goodness gracious, she was an author. She was the first female aviator to fly solo across the Atlantic Ocean. And you think about how all the young kids, especially young girls, would look up to somebody like that.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
when you look at the people in the on television today that are your kids are looking at male and female, they pale in comparison to people like we just talked about here. They
Right.
pale. They really do. Because they're in for the glit and the glamour and the shiny things of life. And that's not what made this country or any contribution that anybody makes at any point in time in their life. That's not what makes the society great. It's people who give and people who encourage positive images. And Amelia Earhart is one of those people. And there's been a lot of mysteries around her death and all. But her being, flying an airplane back then, I mean, airplanes were still,
There wasn't much to them.
yeah, yeah. I mean, they didn't have all these, autopilots and all this other stuff that they got today, all the technology and GPS. They didn't have all that
They
stuff.
didn't have bathrooms. They didn't have,
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
you
No,
carried your water on board so when you got thirsty, you could have some water. I mean, it was,
yeah,
yeah,
she was a true renegade.
she really
And
was.
that's one thing that I think is important for us to look to. And even as adults, and also especially for kids, don't be afraid to walk to the beat of your own drum.
Right.
Don't follow the crowd. That's what we're talking about. These people who inspire us and the people who could be a great inspiration to our younger people. Teach them to think, because the mind is not something just to remember stuff with. The mind should be taught to think for yourself, be
Yes.
creative, draw lines outside the box or color outside the box, as they say. And that's really what we need to do in life,
Right.
regardless of age. And if you always color inside the lines, you're gonna get old fast.
Well, one of the women I want to talk about, we're going to bring
Mhm.
it up a few years,
Okay.
is Dolly Parton.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sure just about everybody knows who Dolly Parton is. She was
Hmm.
born January 19th of 1946. She's an American singer, songwriter, and actress. But this is what I love about her the most. She is a philanthropist, a businesswoman, and she's known for her work in the country music industry.
Hmm.
But she, wow, she had a life, right?
Hmm.
She had a life. So she had, I'm trying to find it here. Give
Hmm.
me a second, y'all. Okay. So she was born in Little Pigeon River in Pittman Center, Tennessee, in a one-room cabin on the banks of the river.
That's
She
right.
is the fourth of 12 children. 12,
It was crowded in there, huh?
a little bit. She has three deceased siblings, and she she had such an interesting life. When talk about,
Hmm.
she talks about her life in the Smoky Mountains, and she's like, it made me who I am.
Hmm.
It absolutely made me who I am. She has cherished memories of her youth, and there's of course a replica cabin of on the Locust Ridge cabin resides in Parton's namesake theme park, Dollywood. So what I love about her, and I'm trying to find when she did it, because they were dirt poor, right? I mean, they had like no money, but they
Hmm.
had a lot of love, and
Hmm.
they family was everything to them, everything.
Yeah.
So at 13, I'm reading here. By 10, she was appearing on the Cass Walker show, and at
Hmm.
13, she was recording the single Puppy Love on a small Louisiana label and
Mm.
appeared on the Grand Ole Opry, where she first met Johnny Cash, who encouraged her to follow her own instincts regarding her career.
Hmm.
So she graduated high school in 1964, and she moved to Nashville the next day.
Mm.
Talk about going for it, right?
Oh,
But one
yeah.
of the things that she does, and I'm trying to look through this quickly,
Hmm.
and I don't have all the numbers, but she is really big on helping people, helping children
Hmm.
read. Because where she came from, a lot of the people there do not know how to read.
Hmm.
And she has a foundation where she gives out books. And
Hmm.
I'm trying to find it real quick. And I
Hmm.
don't know how many, literally millions of books she has given away, but
Mm.
it's to help instill that reading is good and that it's fun, so that people don't, especially in that area of our country here in the United States,
Hmm.
don't stay stuck by not having an education and not
Yeah.
knowing how to read.
Oh, yeah. And while you're looking for that, I'd just like to say that, she's worked for a lot of good causes. She's
Oh,
worked for the American Red Cross, the HIV/AIDS charities. Even she donated $1 million for the COVID-19, during the COVID-19 pandemic, towards the research at Vanderbilt University Medical Center. And then she encouraged others who could afford it to
to do
donate money too, because
right,
that's part about giving back. And that's something that's very, very critical for our kids to understand. It's not what you get in that's yours that you can take out of this world, it's what can you give back.
right,
And you give out of love and you give out of abundance.
right. You fill
And
somebody else's cup.
yes, yes, because I know there's some individuals on TV that will say, if you send money, well, now you're entitled to receive something. That is the wrong heart to give that in. It should
Right.
be given freely and no expectations in return, because it's going to come back to you. So why worry about it? You can't
Exactly.
you can't script how it's going to come back, but it will come back to you. And
You
when we
know,
talk, go ahead.
I was just going to say one of the other things I like about Dolly Parton, and I can't find the exact numbers on this,
Hmm.
but one of the things I really, really like about her is her honesty.
Oh, yeah.
She makes no bones about, well, you can't look like this and not have a few procedures done, and a few nips and a few tucks, and she'll stand up and put her hands on her hip, and it just makes me laugh so hard because
Yeah.
she's very open and she's very honest about it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and somebody had asked her, and I don't know if you know this, Jim, but I remember
Okay.
this interview with her. Somebody asked her, where did you get the idea to always dress like this? Because, most of the time her hair's in different wigs.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, well, there was a lady of the night in my town, and she was always dressed up and always had on red lipstick. And and her nails were always done. And I just thought she was so pretty. So,
That's one thing about Dolly. I mean, she was just really down to earth, very open, very honest. There was nothing phony about her. I
no,
mean, and she's comfortable with herself.
right. She is.
Oh my goodness. And I mean, of course, she's very, very successful in country music and all that. And I mean, she, she just ignored. Yeah, it didn't even bother about all the jokes about her shape. I'll say that and just leave it at that. I mean, some of the jokes that some of the comedians said about her, they should have been smacked. They
Yeah,
really should because it was disrespectful.
very
You know,
disrespectful.
yeah,
There's a difference between being disrespectful and making a joke that's just kind of funny.
yeah, yeah,
Right.
exactly. And it was just what they were doing basically was that they weren't good enough to entertain people. So they had to say, hey, don't look at me, look at Dolly Parton.
Right.
And they make all their rude comments about her. And that was just, you know, that's just hitting below the belt. As the old saying goes, it's not even fair. And I
Right.
guess they thought they were funny, but they were not funny. They were pitiful and they were so ignorant they did not know it.
Right. Well, look at all the work she's done. And
Yes.
she's done if I'm not mistaken, Jim, she's done work and help feed the children.
Yes.
Okay.
Hmm.
And I don't mean, she made a phone call and said, okay, you can put my name on it. I mean, she got in.
She's in.
She's all in and
Hmm.
help feed the children and her books, and she gives scholarships out to kids.
Mm.
She just does so many things because
Yeah.
she just says, I've been blessed by so much in my life, and it was God given to me,
Hmm.
and I need to be able to give back.
Oh yeah.
And there it is.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't get much more beautiful than that,
And the beauty of it is the more she gives, the more she gets because that's the
right?
way it works. Because there's many stories about that. You hear about the one talent, two talent, and that sort of thing. But I'm not going to go there. But the fact of it is, if you're given something and you hold on to it like a dog on a bone, and
Right?
you don't share it or give it, you're not going to get anything else.
Nope.
You're not going to get anything else. And if you eagerly share that and give it away, I love these videos where people take a camera and they go up to a homeless person, they give them some money, and then they follow or have someone else follow the
Wow,
homeless person, see
I've
what they
seen
do with
those.
the money. And what's amazing, most of the time, the homeless person will take and buy things because they saw this one guy go into a liquor store and they thought, oh, he's just going to buy some booze.
Right.
But the guy didn't. He went in there and he bought some sandwiches. They had other things in there other than just liquor. And then they followed him to the park where other homeless people were, and he was sharing what he bought with them to feed them. And of course, they rushed right over there to him and says, because you did that, we're going to give you some more. And they give him quite a bit of money. And that's
Right.
one of many, many cases. And those are the kind of things that we should be seeing more and more on TV.
Hmm.
How good people, even though they may not have much, on the inside they're rich because they're so eagerly to share that with others.
That they give to others, not
Oh,
because they get anything anything out of it, but just the joy of their own heart.
The joy of giving.
Mhm.
The joy of giving. That is so important in life. It really is.
Ooh, that's a big
And
one.
yeah. And, we talk about people that have made a difference. We just got done talking about Dolly Parton and all, and how she's donated millions towards causes for children's literacy, medical research, disaster relief. The list goes on and on and on. She actually, if she knows of a bona fide cause and there's need, she's there.
Right.
And one of the things, that kind of surprised me, I was looking at this list, was Bono. He's a rock star. He's known for his crazy antics. Bono is
Yeah.
YouTube Bonos, but he's used a lot of his influence for good.
Hmm.
Bono's been a role model for Americans and others worldwide because he is a co-founder of the One ONE and Red campaigns. His organization helped raise over $500 million towards AIDS prevention and eradicating global poverty.
Hmm.
That is amazing. And one of the things I like to share that Emerson shared with, I've heard the story before, but it's very, very beautiful. The micro lending, it was on yesterday's show, but the micro lending it actually got a Nobel Peace Prize. And this guy started this program. And micro lending means exactly that. $50 here, $100 there in these very impoverished areas.
Right.
And sad to say, they found out if they give a man $100 in these impoverished areas, he's
Yes.
going to go serve himself. He's going to
Yeah.
buy. Yeah, and I hope that didn't shock you. You dropped something there, Donna. But anyway, he's going to buy booze or whatever. He's going to spend money in a place where he shouldn't. Let me just say that and leave it there. But when they give $100, now this is not a charity gift. This is a loan. It's a micro loan. They give the $100 to a lady that doesn't have anything. And all of a sudden she says, hey, I'm somebody.
Right.
At least somebody gave me some money. And they want me, it's a loan, and I'm
They gave me
responsible.
a chance.
Yeah.
They
And
believed in me enough.
Yeah. And they would go out and buy material and they'd make something and sell it. And Emerson was saying how those ladies were the first ones in line. They wanted to make a weekly payment back on that
Yep.
loan. And the payback on those loans is higher than the best rates, the best potential risk at banks, evaluate people when they
Right.
loan money. Their payback percentage wise is higher. And that goes to show you about the integrity. When you give someone integrity and give them respect, that's a
give them
good
hope.
thing. Yeah, because if you just give them welfare and handouts, you're robbing them of their dignity.
Right.
I mean, it's just, how can you feel good about getting something for nothing?
Right.
Because it will enslave you to be dependent on someone else to give you something else for nothing.
Right.
And you can't feel good about yourself in times like that, can you, Donna?
No, you have to, there's that importance that we need in self-fulfillment, right? And
Yeah.
and in pride within ourselves. And that is a beautiful thing.
Mhm.
When we work hard for what we have and we have pride in it and we do
Oh,
it
yeah.
and we do it the right way.
Mhm.
We do it the right way. And we take that, I don't ever take it for granted. I know you don't.
No.
Even if I know this sounds silly, but even if I get a loan, right? Like you were talking about, I don't take that for granted.
Mm-mm.
I take that as wow, look at
You've
this.
earned that. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I've earned this, and I keep my word. I keep my word. So that's
Mhm.
a huge one. That's
Yeah.
huge.
Have you ever heard the name Katherine Johnson?
No.
Well, I hadn't either till I got this list going here, but she was very brilliant in her mathematical calculations
Oh
for the
yes, yes.
astronauts in space. Now, this is before computers.
Yes, I do know. I do
Yeah.
know that the movie. Yes.
Hidden Figures is the
Thank you.
movie.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Phenomenal movie. She was all of those women were amazing.
Mm. Yeah. And, really, when you get right down to it, this world would not be wouldn't even be a glimpse of how good it is if it wasn't for the strong women.
That's right.
That's a fact because they keep it's kind of like I heard a comedian. You may have heard this too. It's been around several times, but like, women, women are when you give a woman something, she won't give you back whatever you've given her. She will multiply it and give it back.
Right.
And the guy said, well, if you make love to your wife, she will multiply that and give you a baby. If you bring her home groceries, she will multiply that. She will make lots of meals out of those out of that. If you give her a home, she'll multiply. Give her a house, she'll multiply it and turn it into a home. And then he said, if you give her aggravation, and he just stopped and everybody started laughing. But really, when it comes to ladies, they have that ability to they're the glue that holds everything together. They really are.
Yep.
And as I was talking on a show with Deb Lewis, commander of the Hawaii National Guard, VFW commander, and I don't remember how I said it. It did not come out right, but like if Evan's going to do something in the house, I don't care. It's not that I don't care. It's just that I trust her judgment. I trust.
Right.
Whatever color curtain she puts up is fine with me.
Right.
It really is, because if it makes her happy, that happiness is going to be multiplied, and I'm going to be the recipient of it. So why should I care if they're pink, blue, brown, or whatever? Right. I don't care. Right. I really don't. That's just being a guy, I guess. I don't know. Did that come out okay that time? I didn't.
Yeah, it is funny because, and we all have our strengths and weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
My husband and I are still discussing our fireplace in our house. And every time he discusses the way he wants to do it, I just kind of raise my eyebrow like that and go, mm-hmm.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah, sounds real interesting.
Yeah. So then he says, well, I got to figure out another sales pitch if I want it this way.
We'll finally decide on it, but we've got a little time on that. But we're throwing around ideas.
Yeah, it's summertime now. I have to worry about the winter.
Absolutely, it's hot here. It's hot. Yeah. We just broke another record the other day at 113.
For this time of year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wow, because I've been out there in Phoenix, and when I served in the Guard, my unit, the 158th, was in Phoenix, and I know how mucho el hato it gets in Phoenix.
Yeah, I tell my friends who've never been here, they say, well, there's all the other places, and then there's Phoenix, Arizona, and then there's the surface of the sun, kind of right there together.
Yep. And I was reading here a little bit about Katherine Johnson, and all the things that she did in the space industry with NASA.
Oh my gosh, she was amazing.
All of the complicated orbital calculations that she did was just mind-boggling.
And she was a child genius.
Mm-hmm.
Her teacher told her folks, get her out of here and move to wherever it was and get her in this school. She is so gifted that you need to do this for her.
Oh yeah. Because she was literally as a human computer is what she was between the ears.
It was amazing how she could do that.
Yeah. And ladies and gentlemen, if you've never seen the movie that she was in, my goodness gracious, Hidden Figures, you should see that movie. That would be a great movie for your kids to see, especially if you got a gifted child. Even male or female makes no difference. So look what this lady did. This is before cell phones,
Right.
Wi-Fi, and that'll really get their attention to where, wow, that was back in the Stone Age. Well, it wasn't that far back.
Close, close,
Yeah.
but not quite.
Huh? Did she say? Did she say we're close?
I said we're closed, Jim.
Oh, close.
Closed.
Yeah. Yeah. The lights are still on, but I'm not at home. Is what you're
Right. He's
saying?
not home.
Yeah.
No, but she did the calculations she did, and she knew she was right.
Hmm.
And that movie encompasses so much. It encompasses, of course, segregation.
Hmm.
And the guy who I can't remember his name. I know Kevin Costner played his part in the
Oh,
movie,
yeah.
but the gentleman who ran the NASA was so mad about the segregation
Hmm.
and the division it was causing. He went and busted down all the signs and said, hey, guess what? There's one bathroom. There's a men's bathroom, there's a women's bathroom, and there's
Hmm.
coffee pot. Everybody's the same at NASA. And
Hmm.
it was beautiful because it was the starting of something so wonderful. And these women were able to grow because and at that time, you got to remember women were just pretty much clerical,
Hmm.
right?
That's right.
Type a little letter and you'll
Hmm.
be okay, sweet pea.
Hmm. Hmm.
Bring us coffee, whatever. But these women had it going on. I mean, they were just as smart could be.
Oh, yeah. They really were. And, when you have a very gifted child like that, you know, it's important because Thomas Edison, when he was a kid, the teachers told the teacher told his mom, I think it was, that this kid is dumb.
Sent it in a note.
Yeah, send it in a note. He was dumb or just can't be,
He can't
and
be taught, and you
yeah,
should put him in an institution.
thank you. Thank you.
Mhm.
And the mother says he's smarter than that teacher will ever be. And that's exactly right. Because in school, now this is one thing that I learned many years later. Because when I grew up in school, ladies and gentlemen, I thought that I wasn't as smart as the other kids.
I think we've all
That's
felt that.
that's what I felt. And the very first time, this is a true story, very first time that I got a snapshot, how do I want to say this? That I was more not that dumb. Okay, I just got drafted in the army. I got discharged from the draft. I was going to join for 3 years, and I was going to get a school. And the sergeant sitting there. Okay, he says, "What do you want to do?" I don't know, you know. And he's reading off all these things, and I don't have a clue what the man is talking about. Like radio relay and carrier attendant. What in the world does that mean to a 19-year-old kid that can't even spell army? Nothing. And after a while, he got kind of frustrated at me, and he says, "Well, you can take anything you want to from accounting down to welding if you want to. Just tell me what you want because you tested very high. You got above average intelligence." And I'm sitting there and I'm going, I didn't believe him at first. I
Right,
mean, it was something I'd never heard before.
right.
Looking back and looking back at everything, what it was in a nutshell, I was bored. And I think a lot of kids are
Yes,
misdiagnosed because they're bored.
yes.
Their mind is up here, but the level of teaching is down there, or the
There's
subject
no
that they're
challenge for
interested
him.
in is over here, and they're teaching this other thing over there. And that's why it's important. And I think all parents should have the choice of saying, "This is what I want my child to be involved with," because everybody's got a special gift.
Sure,
We all have special gifts.
sure. And the
And
thing is that we all learn at different levels, Jim.
oh yeah. Mhm.
And that's what, gosh, that used to frost my fritters when my kids were little.
Mhm.
Well, so it's whichever one of my children, it should
Mhm.
be over here and should be there. And I went, huh, okay.
Mhm.
Why? Well, because that's what all the other kids are doing. I mean,
Yeah,
based on our knowledge and based on the percentage. And I'm like, my child is not a percentage.
that's right.
He's my child,
Amen. That's right.
right? Or she's my child, whichever
Hmm.
one it was. And I got to tell you, it quite frankly just pissed some teachers off because I argued with them.
No, you wouldn't
Yeah.
argue with them, would you? A little bit.
Oh, well,
Mhm.
I probably really made them mad when I said,
Mhm.
listen, you will hear me out because I'm paying your salary.
Mhm. Yeah,
And I
yeah.
love teachers, and I think that they have,
Mhm.
an incredible job. But when it came to my child and trying to get me to explain, you
Mhm.
know, gosh, maybe give them a little bit of extra help
Yeah, yeah.
because you know I know that they can get this, and
Mhm.
not all teachers see it that way.
Mm-mm.
Let's
No,
just be honest about it.
just try to run them through the mill kind of a deal.
Exactly, just run them in, run them out.
Yeah.
Next class.
When I was an instructor in the military, I was teaching a class, and we were teaching a basic class on maintenance. This would be similar to, this is how you check your oil in the car. This is how you check the water in the radiator, et
Mhm.
cetera, et cetera. This is how you fill the wiper fluid up, in the box, and that sort of thing. And because this was very basic unit level maintenance we were teaching, well, I had a guy in there he was already in the course, but to be awarded the course, he had to go through it. And he was at the depot level. That was where he had been trained at. And depot level is four levels of maintenance above that, what I was teaching.
Right.
It's like having a certified mechanic in your class that can overhaul an engine. And I'm up there teaching them, this is the oil stick and this is how you
Right.
pull it out and wipe. You get the picture, right?
Right. Right.
And he's sitting there, and I could see I am putting him to sleep. And I said, we're a little short-handed today, ladies and gentlemen. So what we're going to do today? And I said, would you be kind enough to come up here? And I called him up to the front, and I says, I know you know this stuff inside and out. Would you be kind enough to become an assistant instructor and float around and help people when they get stuck in certain areas? Oh yeah, he came to life.
Hmm.
But if I'd have sat there and went through the rigmarole,
He'd have been
went through,
asleep.
oh yeah, oh yeah. I mean, he could pass the test like he could wrote the test that we took,
Right.
But that I recognized that, and I got him involved because when you get people involved like that, you challenge a young mind, and that's what it should be. It should be a challenging a young mind to think, not just remember something to pass a test.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
that's our responsibility as parents to recognize that. It's also our responsibility to make sure we bring it to the heads of the teacher
Hmm.
or to their attention. And that's how come I'm very much in favor of the parents being in charge of what the kids are taught. And very much so because there's too much other stuff out there that's occupying that is not beneficial to the kids and it's not beneficial to society. And that's just my 2 cents for what it's worth.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, and I think along those lines, the same thing that we want our children to do: grow up, question everything, so that we can learn it. We have to
Mhm.
be the same way,
Yeah, mhm. Sure do. We
right?
have to set the example.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Always question it. And the one thing I have learned over my years, if I don't know, I'm okay with that. But I ask so I find out so I'm informed.
Mhm.
Super important. I don't let my ego and pride get in my way
There
of
you go.
knowledge.
There you go. And I got to say something about Donna. I mean, I've known her for some time now, and with Donna, she's a straight shooter. She just, she tells you how she feels about something, and she's always level-headed, and she's smart enough to weigh all options before she makes a decision. And I admire that in her. And I just got to give you a quick plug here.
Thank you.
Um, well, it's my pleasure because it's true, And you see high energy right now. Donna at gmail.com. Donna's an expert in helping people unblock the things that's holding them back. So if you're out there and you're struggling and you don't know what to do, Do you go with this company or what's good about this one here? You can't make a decision, or you got all these things going on in your mind. Give Donna a call because you are contact her there at highenergyrightnow@gmail.com. Excuse me, my throat's not the best tonight this afternoon, but she will give you a 30-minute consultation and find out what's blocking your energy, because your energy, you are entitled to your energy. You deserve to have your energy, and you need to soar with the eagles and stop strutting with them turkeys.
Right. Well, you know what? It was my own journey that I realized, unfortunately, in life,
Mhm.
that one thing that keeps us from obtaining what we want is we hold ourselves hostage.
Mm.
Think about that one, folks.
Mhm.
We hold ourselves hostage. And we
Sometimes we're our own worst enemy.
absolutely, absolutely. So I would be happy to talk with you. You
Mhm.
know, give me a shout out on my email. I'd
Yeah.
be happy to give you that. And thank
And
you
she'll
so
be
much.
glad to give you some cat advice too, because she's,
I got a couple.
oh yeah, 4. But our time is gone, ladies and gentlemen. It really is. And we just like to close the show, every show, with saying, be sure and love yourself first, then you can love others. Most importantly, as Donna likes to say, give yourself
Grace.
grace. Yeah.
Grace is
Forgive
important.
yourself and don't hold yourself hostage. We're going to be back tomorrow, and we hope you enjoyed the show. So hope you have a good evening or a good day, good morning, afternoon, whenever you get a chance to see the show. If you don't catch us live, follow us on YouTube. We appreciate it so much. And folks, we'll see you tomorrow. Have a